meeting. It is August 8th. It is going to call the meeting to order at 6:50. I'm joined by Mr. Flynn and Mrs. Vaccaro. Number two, any comments, suggestions by residents in attendance for items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to discussion items. 3A, Public Works.
Good evening, Don Edwards, Public Works Director. For the past month, I'd like to highlight the following projects. 52 trees were planted. Only 6 died, which is better than the historical average. I believe that 20% has been the historical average. We completed the Emerald Ash Borer treatment. The sewer planning study was started to see how to increase sewer capacity so we can add new land development projects in the Goose Creek Drainage Basin. We expect a report in about 5 weeks. For paving, Glasgow is under contract, and we have a pre-construction conference scheduled this week. They are scheduled to be finished by October 27th. As you're well aware, we found an illicit discharge and are working with the property to disconnect the service from our storm sewer system. And finally, we are working on a grant application to replace or line brick sewers. If you recall, we've experienced failures which suggest that these sewers are at the end of their useful lives. The grant is through a Corps of Engineers pilot program. We will probably apply for about $500,000, and we may use stream protection money as a match. The application is due within the next 2 weeks. There should be more to follow on this application. And this is the one with the grant writing services that are being done for free for us. Thanks to DVRPC. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
I only have, you knew I was going to have at least one.
Oh, yeah.
The railroad crossing
Yes.
down at Neal Street.
Yep.
I know that we love Four States and the Historic Railroad. Who's inspecting their work to make sure that it's being done correctly? And did they have to get an additional insurance policy to do that kind of work? Because we don't have the expertise in making sure that the tracks line up and I don't know whether they got a permit or not, and who's inspecting it.
Yeah. Well, I don't have good answers for you. We did not inspect it.
Yeah, I can help get you an answer. I don't know off the top of my head, but they are insured to do the work, and we'll have to clarify to you and the rest of the committee how that process works and how those things are done, because that's not the only thing they do. They are out.
Right.
They're out regularly doing work on the tracks all the time.
Yeah, the general maintenance on the tracks, we see them doing all the time, but this is a major infrastructure. They tore the street up, tore out all the old stuff and put in new concrete at their expense. Just what, because we are the leasee, and we would be in line with if there was an issue that happened. The other thing I wanted to ask you is with the illicit discharge, how well did our cameras and stuff work? Did we get our camera fixed, that kind of thing?
Did not. No, we had to use an outside camera, and we just have a basic camera. But the one that we used, which really helped us find it, has this thing called a lateral launcher, and basically it goes through the regular storm sewer or sanitary sewer, and then it launches this little smaller camera into the lateral. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
I don't want to be down there, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I saw our residents not paying taxes living in that area. But when do we expect to get our tractor for the sewer line?
Actually, just this morning, I asked Don Anderson to get an update on that. So I'm waiting for an answer on that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. There's one thing, well, anybody, any other questions?
Yeah, I do have one question about the illicit discharge.
Yeah.
Is there a time frame? Has the owner been told a week?
Well, yeah, I sent a letter and I think I gave them 2 weeks to prepare a plan, but just yesterday they were out at the site. We had a meeting this morning at the site and they had to do some things like a Pennsylvania one call and apply for the plumbing permit and all that. But they're hoping to do the work next Monday. So it's a little faster than actually we were allowing them. So,
Good, thank you.
okay. And if I may, there's one other thing on the agenda, and this is more of a heads up than anything. And you can go back to the agenda. Yeah. The letter I, traffic controller replacement at Gay and Matlock Street. We had to replace a traffic controller. It's a result of one of those accidents near the Country Bagel. And there's about a $50,000 cost, but I believe there's only a $5,000 deductible cost for us. But considering the magnitude of the, of this purchase, I just wanted to let you all know what's going on there.
Yeah, I was looking at that. The curve there seems to invite or attract magnetically cars to hit that thing.
Yeah.
It seems it's been hit the last 2 years or 3 years during COVID years too.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Don is out there, in the middle of the night trying to sop up that stuff. Does it make sense, or is it possible to move it so it's not whacked all the time? Because that's the first thing they hit as they come around that bend.
Okay.
And that pole is a breakaway pole.
Okay.
And that's not stopping it. So
Okay. Are you interested in getting, I guess they call that a pork chop, that thing out there, the island?
yeah.
Are you interested in getting rid of it or having it redesigned or something else? Or-
It just doesn't make sense that they keep running into that thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, if it was once in a while, once every 10 years,
Right.
but it seems to be like every couple of years somebody's running into that thing
Right.
and doing the same thing over and over again. You know what happens. So
If you want to,
it makes sense to move it outside the curve to me,
That's
but
not
I'm not an engineer.
Well,
Just
I mean, I think I
enjoy
would
it.
wait until, we're in the middle of talking about the Gay Street closure and that final design. So
Oh, yeah.
we'll do it as part of
yeah.
that project.
Yeah,
But I had a question about the $5,000 deductible. So the borough has to cover that? It's not subrogated through whoever hit it?
Well, it's my understanding, maybe Dana knows more than I do about this, but I understand that it was a stolen vehicle. So there's not the driver's insurance available. Is that true? Or it's-
take the best that they can. They were juveniles. It's a stolen vehicle, but they'll do the best that they can.
Which is also there's a possibility of restitution, but that takes much longer through the courts.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
B, wastewater.
Good evening, Sean Mitchell, Goose Creek Superintendent. This past month, the crews at Taylor Run inspected, cleaned, and their grit removal system after a couple big storms, they went through and cleaned out all the grit, road stuff, everything that went through it, cleaned it out very well. They power washed the other side of their contact tank as regular maintenance and inspected and cleaned their number 3 tertiary filter from the new system that was just put in. Their annual cleaning and painting of the pumps and piping in the plant continued during the heat wave to keep everybody out of the sun. At Goose Creek, I was bad. I kept everybody out in the heat. We completed our task, as I said last month, of diverting and draining 1.3 million gallons of treated sewage. We dropped our close to 900,000 gallon tank at the time. Everything went very well. We only had to replace 8 pieces of all thread on the tank that was corroded. The tank is now back in operation. With help of the IT department, Jeff and Billy did a great job. One of the 2 new network switches has been installed in the plant, along with a couple new video cameras. We're also trying out a new video monitoring system between the borough, the IT and wastewater. This could be a possible new system used in the parking garages at a lower cost to the borough. So we're the guinea pigs. And then I'll have something come up in other business real quick as an FYI.
How's it going with not having the grass cut?
We are cutting grass.
I thought we weren't cutting the grass at the plants. We were gonna let it go to,
Now, we're the majority, we're doing everything except the swath.
okay, all right.
Just one question. Do you keep track of how much we actually treat, gallons per day?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be nice to have in the report, versus what our total capacity actually is.
We can. It breaks down and Taylor Run, they stay consistent. They're right around 1 million gallons a day. College Out, Goose Creek is right around 600. College In, we're just over 1 million as an average.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Hello, Keith Karowski, Director of Parks and Rec. I don't have a formal report as I just returned to work yesterday after being off for several weeks, but I did want to speak to you all about the status of the Rec and Park Master Plan update. I have some- Okay. As I've discussed in previous meetings, we want to get the ball rolling on this as soon as we can, but it's all contingent upon us applying for the grant through Chester County, which is the Vision Partnerships Program grant. The company we're going to hire, JMT and Tool, is willing to pretty much write the grant for us. They've done a number of them. But any work they do with the borough prior to us actually being awarded the grant, which wouldn't be until the end of November, beginning of December, would not be eligible. So Sean and I looked over some things and we're looking at potentially entering into 2 different agreements with the company we want to choose for this process. One would be what's on the first page, the scope of services. And I'll explain that briefly. Task 1 is the analysis. That is phase 1. If you look at the chart, the yellow highlighted area, that is phase 1 of the plan. That is the analysis, the kickoff meeting, the demographic profile, the open space, parks, recreation, and trail analysis, and the parks and open space inventory. That is $15,000, $15,840. So if we get rolling with that now, to not waste time and to move ahead, we would only be eligible for $63,630 towards the grant. And you can see on the chart that I provided, that would still leave the borough with, again, this is all based on best case scenario. We're due to the grant a 40% match, regardless of what the cost is. So 40% of that cost minus phase 1 is $25,452. We'd still be eligible for the grant up to $50,000, best case scenario. So we're still well below the line we had set originally, which was $100,000 for the overall project. If it's council's decision to hold off on this and to not do anything until we get the grant back, you move a little further down the spreadsheet, the borough would be on the hook for $31,788 for the full amount, and the grant could be up to $47,682. I know we've been talking about this plan and this program for a while. We want to get the ball rolling. I know there's other issues that have been discussed, the baseball field, the park upgrades. I think personally, in best interest of the borough, is to get moving on this. The difference between the two is the difference is $9,504. That'd be the difference between what we'd have to match for our 40% if we get the full match from the grant. The other caveat to this on the scope of services, we've already assumed that task 1 is phase 1 and task 3 is the grant submission assistance. We've already calculated those into this. So we're going to be paying for this. The other optional fee is if we want them to come out to some of our larger events, Restaurant Festival, Halloween Parade, Santa at the Square, we can pick up the 3 events this fall that they could come out to and further survey and get information from the public to help support this plan and get more information from the folks that we're going to be working with in the future. That is a $7,500 option that was not included in the original fee. So that's kind of, I'm maybe putting this ahead of the guidelines for the, when it comes to the meeting here for tasks. But that's kind of where we stand right now. I wanted to bring that up to the committee and see what your thoughts were and what you thought would be best served to the borough. Do we go ahead and move forward with all 3 tasks and we write the check for $28,625 and then rely upon their grant writing expertise to get us the most money we can come the grant time? I don't think the grant's even been officially put out there yet. We were told from the county that it would be put out sometime in early August and that awards would be made sometime late November, early December. So the difference we're looking at in cost right now is the $7,500 optional coming out to our events, or the difference in the time if we wait between, if we wait for everything between now and when the grant is awarded, we're looking at about a $9,500 difference in our costs to the planners we'd be working with. I hope I explained that correctly or well enough.
And so what are the odds of not getting the grant?
As with any grant, you can't put a finger on it. These folks have written this specific grant numerous times, and they've done very well. And we've been I don't want to say asked, we've been encouraged, vehemently encouraged to apply for this grant from the County Planning Commission. So I think our ducks will all be lined up. We have the experts writing the grant for us. I think we will, get as much as we possibly can out of this. But again, I don't know how many other municipalities are applying for the same grant and what the pool is going to look like.
And what did we budget for 23?
We betted $100,000. So, I mean, we're significantly, either way we go, we're significantly under that number by far. Even if we don't get any grants, we're looking at $79,470 as of right now. And that's if we don't include any other options.
I want this to go. I want this to go as quickly as possible. I do have some comments about the pop-up thing.
Sure.
I love the idea of doing the pop-ups. I think getting the community's buy-in and making them feel some sense of ownership of what's happening is huge. I know that at Everhart you did that with the kids over at Hillsdale, and
Yep.
that was amazing and a beautiful thing. I am going to ask that somebody go over to the courthouse and talk to the teenage, mostly boys, who hang out there every single day
Okay.
about what they want, because those kids are not taken care of in this community and they're not included. They're not going to be at the restaurant fest. If they are, they're going to be sneaking around somewhere else. They're not going to be at the Santa event, definitely.
Sure.
I want them included, and I want to know what they want to see, and I want to know what they want to build. I want them involved. I want these kids who are part of the fabric of our community represented, included, and encouraged to be a part of our community.
I totally agree. And again, this is just one step in the process. We'll have a number of online surveys. We'll have focus groups. We'll have different special meetings that'll plan for different sections of the town. But I absolutely agree. Everyone should be represented. This is going to affect everyone in the long run.
Where are those kids?
At the old courthouse.
Oh, the old courthouse,
The old courthouse, not the new one.
not where I live.
No.
I'm in favor of trying to move this whole thing forward.
I agree.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other Parks and Rec updates?
No, I do apologize. I was off dealing with some family health issues for the last month. And in my stead, Isabella Ryan, our program coordinator, did a tremendous job in keeping up with everything that we had going on, our camps, some of our special events. She worked hand in hand with the parking department, public works, doing everything she could to make sure that we were up and running and kept things running as smooth as they could while I couldn't be here. I can't thank her enough. I also want to thank the rest of the staff that helped her make sure those things were taken care of. I mean, she's only been around for 5 or 6 months. It was a tall task to undertake, and she did a great job. I just want to make sure she gets her just due.
Mr. Krause, has the Parks and Rec Commission Are they still meeting?
Yeah, last Wednesday of every month.
Okay, remember we talked about bat houses?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so, and we were going to come back next month or whatever with the, I think 3 standard kind of like. bat
Yes, sir.
houses.
It's my mistake. I had other,
No mistake. I forgot about it.
I got you.
But somebody reminded me that I was bat crazy, so I figured I'd bring it up there, the bat houses. And one, they wanted to make sure that one was a maternity bat house.
Right, to, I guess to foster more bats.
Thanks.
Understood. No, I will make sure to have that taken care of.
Thanks.
Certainly.
Any additional comments, Mayor DeBaptiste? I see you had your hand up.
Actually, it's me, Mr. McCoy. Mr. Karowski, was that attached to the agenda for tonight? What
No.
you just shared?
It was not. I'm happy to give you copies. I literally just pretty much got this information together today.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
So you're right. Parks and Recreation did not miss a beat at all because of Isabella, and we're very thankful that we have her here. My question is, she's bright, she's young. Why are we outsourcing this writing of grants? Why is this not being done in-house?
In my,
It's such a, almost a sure thing. Why are we paying someone, how much again? None of those figures do we have.
the cost for this,
So-
the cost, I'm sorry, the cost for the grant writing services for this particular grant is $5,000 from JMT/Tool Recreation Planning. If I'm not mistaken, I don't believe, while Isabella's great, I don't believe she's any grant writing experience.
You've been there for.
I have. I have grant writing experience. Again, JMT and Tool have significantly more than I do. And with, $30, $40, $50,000 on the line for this one, I think it's worth the time and efforts to let them do it professionally. I'm not saying that we couldn't, but maybe we wouldn't do it as well as they can. They've done this particular grant several times before. I'm very confident in their abilities. I'm confident in mine, but I'm much more confident in theirs when it comes to this particular grant.
So at what price, Bernie, do we need to get this sourced with 3 people, with 3 different organizations? I'm sorry. When it's over, how?
Over time.
Don't do that. No, Phil Mann has been a lifesaver. But anyway, at what price is it that we need to get a bid for more than when we have 10,000? That's what I thought. Because I don't think this should be decided without a written report. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Engineers report.
Good evening. Hit on a couple of things from the report, as always. Borough Hall, hopefully by the next time this committee meets, the coping around the top will be completed. We're just waiting on material delivery. Grants, we have really good news from Chester County, $678,000 for phase 1 of the Gay Street closure project. Focus of that will be Matlack Street, High Street, and Darlington Street intersections. Those are the bookends and the middle, which is the most heavily trafficked. So thank you to the county and the county commissioners for their support of that. We had a large application focused on South High Street that went in last month, zero match, trying to do streetscape improvements to dovetail with PennDOT's work on that corridor. We have another meeting with Westchester University to gauge their interest in participating. And maybe we can take that whole corridor at once or in, it's not going to be perfectly aligned with PennDOT's timing, but hopefully fast forward a few years and that corridor looks a whole lot different. And we have another large application due in September, which could provide the match necessary to do the rest of the Gay Street project or the match we need for the phase 1 project. So, and then that's kind of grant season at an end. There might be one more opportunity in November we're eyeing up, but most of that activity is weighted towards the front of the year. Greenlight Go is substantially complete and reimbursements are underway. This dates to 2017. I'm like the fourth or fifth person who worked on it. So excited for invoices to stop coming in and checks to start coming in instead. Don't be surprised if you get a few more green lights traveling on High Street or Market Street as PennDOT retimes that corridor, but just remember to obey the speed limit if you do get a couple green lights in a row.
I can tell you, you can go from Church Street to Wawa if you time it right.
Yeah,
Uh,
at 85 miles an hour.
I don't know how fast that car was going, that I was following.
Yeah.
But as Frank Rizzo once said, he wanted you to go from City Hall to Copscrick Parkway without ever stopping. So you probably don't know Frank Rizzo, but anyway, but they're timed beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to hear. High and Minor Street, we have pre-construction scheduled for Thursday morning. Looking forward to getting that going. That is the same grant program that is funding Gay Street. So a lot of investment coming in and to Westchester from Chester County for our streetscapes. And then Taylor Run, we have 2 easements that we'll talk about a little bit later to get a stormwater project going over there. And then second page, we talked about this a few different times, Adopt a Rain Garden volunteer program. It's been really kind of lovely and successful. And here are a couple folks that came out on a really brutal hot day to help us get plugs in the ground at Greenfield Park. And they found a really cool rock while they were down there. So some of our residents in action helping us out.
I only got one question for you. Has management decided where they are going to get the $170,000 match for Gay Street?
No, that'll be part of our budget conversation, as well as the timing.
I'll share with you my thought on it offline, where we could use some money.
Okay.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just timing wise, it's extremely, that project has to be done outside of the summer. And it's extremely unlikely that it gets done by early spring next year. So in terms of timing of that match, when we're going to be paying the big invoices.
You're sitting in the back of the room. I'll give you my idea.
Okay.
And it's an easy flip of some dollars.
Okay. What I was going to say is it might be early 2025 when we incur those costs. So we might have some time to figure it out.
Thank you. And next presentation by Marshall Square Park folks.
Hello, I am Jeff Bytel. I'm the president of Friends of Marshall Square Park. With me tonight is Ann Walters. She's a founding member and she is our landscape architect in the group. I'll just briefly explain the project and then Ann's going to fill in all the details. We have developed a plan for several projects that we'd like to undertake in the park over the next 5-10 years. The first one that we would like to do is around some landscaping around the playground. One of the reasons that we have chosen that as first up project, we have heard some concerns from people who are over there with their children. And as you know, if you've had children, that you turn your head and they're gone. And sometimes they find them just kind of running towards wherever, and it seems to be towards the street, Marshall Street mostly. But we have a badly eroded bank that is along Matlack Street there, and people kind of take a shortcut into the park from their parking space, and they keep on going down there, further eroding it and hurting the roots of those really ancient trees. So, we chose this as one of our first projects in our several that we have that we'd like to do. So with that, I'm going to introduce Ann. One last thing, as always, with any of our projects, we are not asking you for any money. We will be doing this all at our own expense, and we will take care of it in perpetuity.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ann Walters. Jeff just introduced me, and I had the pleasure to present to you tonight a proposed landscape plan for the corners of Matlack and Marshall Street. Jeff already mentioned that the plan, the impetus for the plan really came from concerned parents. Now that we have a new tot lot over there, in addition to the playground that we've had, there's a lot of kids, a lot of use. It's wonderful. But we felt the need to provide a sense of enclosure that is not anything other than decorative, but a nice edge along Matlack as well as a section of Marshall. And so this edge that I'm referring to would be a 30-inch high black aluminum fence that would match the small fencing that's used at the fountain that we did on the opposite corner of the park. So there's some repetition. The old antique acorns would be repeated. We found a source in India. We can have this provided. And so there's a section there of fencing. It comes to sort of a curve at the corner and provides a nice entrance into the park, and then extends once again down Matlack Street. In addition to that 30-inch high black fence, that set off the sidewalk, the brick sidewalk that we did, about 2 feet, so that there would be a landscape border along that 2 feet, something that's low maintenance, that would tolerate the salts from snow removal. And the balance of the planting that you see with all those little circles and all that, sort of curvy beds are intended to be a selection of low maintenance plantings that would stay under 3 feet in height forever. They're low growing. Some of them are ground covers. Some of them are low growing shrubs, and they would provide seasonal interest, color, and hopefully a very nice edge for our perimeter, as you can see there. There are a number of existing trees that extend along these proposed bed areas. Those trees would be, we have no intention of doing anything other than protecting those trees. Some of the lower branches might need to be removed on ones that are drooping down too low right now, but nothing would be done to compromise their safety. Everything would be done to protect them. And then the plants are small in size such that we're not doing excessive excavations around the root systems of any of these trees. In addition to the proposed landscape plan that you see here, there is also an indication of a new zone for a bocce ball court, which is something that is part of the master plan for Marshall Square Park. We're calling it a zone because we understand that an Eagle Scout project will focus on the exact size and the installation construction of it. So we didn't specify it had to be this or that, but we do feel fairly strongly about the location of it. And as you can see, it runs parallel to the basketball court. But there's some existing trees in the way, so we've found a spot just perfectly away from the trees that exist and just giving the basketball court plenty of room. And so we will review those plans with the Eagle Scout as necessary, but we've identified that zone for him. So these plans include this plan sheet and then a second sheet that identifies each and every plant, proposed sizes, botanical common names, planting specifications, tree protection specifications, and all the specifications required to put this out to bid to an appropriate approved, pre-approved landscape contractor. And so we would anticipate with your approval of the project, we've already presented this to the Recreation Committee, and we've seen, thumbs up from everybody. But our hope for the scheduling of this would be to put this out to bid, and we'd like to have the fence installed first, and then we'll plant to the fence. So we'd like to see maybe the installation of the fence 1st of October, and maybe by mid-October, we'd be ready to do the plant installation. This will allow the plants to sort of go to sleep over the winter time and then come back up in the spring. It's a more appealing time to install that amount of plant material, and we don't have irrigation for it. So we have plans to include a certain amount of waterings that would be provided by the landscape contractor. And then, of course, there'll be maintenance of it that we'll support. So then hopefully next spring, it will all come up and look beautiful, and we'll have a nice edge for the park. That's my presentation. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, I have one, looks fantastic. Look
Thanks.
forward to seeing it, but the fence, it's only 30 inches, so I doubt it's an issue, but sight lines at the intersection,
Well,
We purposely kept it low so that it wouldn't impede that, and also so that the police would be able to look down in there and.
It's very
make sure
open.
that it's-
as you know, it's the loop, it's the loop, and then coming up and there's an acorn in the middle. So it's completely open. But there's also a big slope along Matlack. You recall, you know, it's there. We're at the height of it, but it's our intent and that you'd be able, if you're on the sidewalk and it's, in here, you're looking over pretty much. And then as far as the sight lines at the corner, for example, pulled way back in, way back.
lots of accidents at that corner, as you're both aware, so.
Absolutely, yes, there are, aren't they?
I think the park sign and the trash can are more impediments there to the sight lines than our new fence would be, so.
We've got to be about, I don't have that, I have the plan back there, but I'm going to guess we're 30 feet off of that corner.
Oh, okay.
We're well
Right.
back
Yeah,
in.
it's hard to tell from.
It is hard to tell, but it's got to be, we're way in. So, anything else?
I have one question. I didn't see the list of the flowers. They're so tiny. Don't worry about it. The only thing I'm worried about, my question to you, see how little it was?
There we go.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can see that.
A little
from,
hard to see.
My house. No, my question is
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Now you can see. Any of those plants, pollinators?
Are any of them pollinators? Considered pollinators?
Yes.
Yes. Let's see. There's a lot of native plants. Hummingbird clethra. Some of those hydrangeas are not. They're really not. They're adapted natives, and all those flowers are attractors for butterflies, bees, and other pollinators. Little Henry sweet spire, another one.
So.
It goes on and on with the astilbe, the catmint, sage. So yes.
Yeah, I just want, the thing was so little I couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a great idea because we're really encouraging, pollinating
Oh yeah.
areas, even around our Chester Street garage.
Oh
They
yeah.
did a great job with the green team. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. The thing about this is we have quite a variety of sun and shade conditions on that corner, as you can imagine. There's some very, very shady areas, and then there's partial, and then there's full sun, and then it's very challenging for the plants. So these things were picked with all of those things in consideration, but also the reality of the hostile site. It is a hostile site. And so, and that means that it's not your backyard. They call those hell strips, but this is its own hell strip just by virtue of its location. So, anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a second. This is a great job by both of you. I really enjoyed the plan. I was at the Recreation Committee meeting where they were able to present that to the Rec Committee. We didn't have a quorum at that meeting, but I wanted to just illustrate that we're following the process that we talked a lot about with improvements to parks, where ideas are taken to the Rec Commission, then they're brought to this committee for your recommendations, and then they're discussed at council. And so with Keith back, he and I we just have a couple comments that we talked about in the Rec Commission. There won't be any surprises, that we'll put a document together and relay that to council for their consideration at the work session. But we're following this process. I just want you to be aware that you don't have a written recommendation from the Recreation Commission because we didn't have a quorum. There's only 3 people there, but it was a lively, good discussion. And I just want to be clear that we're following the process that we've been talking about.
Yeah. And
Be clear. Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff, what's important to me is, of course, lawsuits. Make sure that the contractors have all their insurance documents into the borough manager, which is really, really important.
Yeah.
We've been doing
use
that
the
consistently.
Contractors that we've used before.
It'll be the same people, and they've had to do that before and have responded well. We respectfully, we understand, about the quorum, and it's summer and it's challenging for people, but It's also really important that we try to make this window of time, because if we miss this window of being able to proceed in late September, early October, and complete the project in a timely manner that month, we're going to miss it, and it'll have to be done at some other time. So it's our great hope that we can get your approval and proceed.
It sounds like we have a 3-0 tonight to move it to the work session. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for your time.
All right, and finally, action items. We only have one, approve easement for Taylor Run Stream Restoration Project.
Hello again. I mentioned this earlier. Earlier this year, we wrote 2 grants for this project, Taylor Run Stream Restoration. If you're familiar with the area, it's basically a stretch between the old car wash and Brandywine. I'm blanking on the street right now. If you were to come down Biddle or Marshall, make that to, yes, behind the land development project that's going on right now. Yes, the incoming dentist. And this is a project from our, we have 2 pollution reduction plans from DEP. One is for Goose Creek, which is actually a really small sliver of the borough geographically, but obviously a problematic watershed. And then the other maybe 3/4 of Westchester Borough is Taylor Run, Black Horse Run, ultimately flowing to the Brandywine. This project is one of the projects that we told DEP we would do to improve water quality in that watershed that ultimately goes to the Brandywine 5 years ago. So we've written 2 grants, hope to at least get one, maybe get both. That would be great. Next step is getting easements squared away. There's 2 landowners. It's 3 parcels that we'll need access to, 2 landowners. The fewer landowners you have on a project like this is always better because of this type of thing. The landowners are the incoming dentist who will own the property, and the I think there's 2 spaces for 2 businesses going in there. And then the Gathering owns the little sliver with the electric billboard and what used to be the old car wash. Both parties have reviewed this and executed. So now it needs to go to council for approval to be signed. From the date it's signed by both parties, we have 5 years to execute, which is why we've already written the grants and hope to start hearing on those soon. If we're successful, this would be probably 2025 construction with final design and permitting happening next year. What's that?
What's the match on the grant?
For the grants, one was for, so the estimated project costs are about $800,000. We wrote a $300,000 grant and a $600,000 or $700,000 grant. So the match is to be determined by what we hear from the granting agencies. But, you know, to the point I made earlier, we don't have to write big checks until 2025 on this, if everything goes as planned.
Other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
I just had one quick question. When you say we wrote the grant,
Myself and Pannoni wrote 2 grants for this project. One in December, that was a special ARPA funded round of a recurring state program. And then there was another grant in May that we submitted.
so you wrote them in-house without outsourcing that?
No, we got into this conversation a little last month. For a project like this, you need a couple of things from a third party. One is a preliminary design, a design that shows that you've done the legwork, that you understand the site, understand what you're proposing. That needs to be done by a third party. They also need to furnish what we call a probable opinion of cost, so that you don't say this is going to cost $700,000 and then you get in there and it costs $7 million. You need an engineer who knows what they're doing, really focused on this type of project, who's doing them all the time, to tell you this is what the project is going to cost. So, going after these big bucks, you're going to spend a couple $1,000s on engineering time. I don't have an exact number, but typically we've been spending between $2,000 and $4,000 per grant application. That includes Gay Street, and we got $678,000. I think that's a
for these
26,000% return on investment. So it needs to be a platoon approach. And the last thing I'll say about engineers, and I'm married to one, so I can say this, is they're very technical in their writing. You know, we're going to install this many linear feet of this, and you're like, well, great. So if I'm reading that, I want to know the story. So what I found works nicely is if they do the financials and the nuts and bolts, and then we illustrate the picture. You know, and that way we're checking both boxes on the personalities that might be reading it. If you're technically inclined, all you want to know is dollar signs and linear feet. If you're more, forget what side of the brain it is, you want to understand what the watershed's like, who lives around it, what happens when it rains, why is it a problem? And that's, I think, something we do better in-house.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just sort of go on to that. One of the other things that's worth noting is that for engineers that are doing this all the time, they know what the reviewers are looking for, perhaps more than, you know, staff that is only doing one every, you know, couple of years or whatever. So, yeah, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
That's why we have the best of both worlds here. All I care about is money, and Pat's analytical. So
But I'm going to make everything way more beautiful. So let's just keep going.
Engineers can do that too.
Yeah. Sorry for the day.
Any other business?
Just as an FYI, we just got into today or yesterday, Mike Finley, the Taylor Run superintendent, back in the January meeting, approached, and it was approved by council to continue with the CCIU consortium for diesel fuel and heating oil. And we got the costs in today. It runs from August 1st through July 31st. Heating oil was locked in at 3.1616, and the ultra low diesel dyed is locked in at 4.0368. And the consortium actually was able to lock in under what they were actually bid, because market opened before they signed, and they saved a ton of money and were a lot lower. So it's just an FYI of what's going on and where the prices were for that.
Excellent. Thank you.
we don't store any of these
No,
petroleum products. They're delivered on demand.
when we need, we call. We have a gallonage that we throw out as an estimate what we might need, and they bid it off of that throughout the whole county
Right.
as a mega bid, and then it's broken out per how many groups are in it.
So, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other business? Okay. Seeing none, we will adjourn. It is 7:38.